Is race 2 of the weekend here at Silverstone for the Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge Great Britain. Or in simple terms, for the Cayman Series, because it is a grid of the 718 iteration of the Cayman GT4 Club Sports that heads to the grid. They had a race yesterday to kick off this year's championship, a late start, and it was won in pretty good fashion, it must be said, by Matthew Armstrong after a fierce fight with Charles Clark. The margin between them at the end was just under half a second, and it is going to be Charles Clark who starts on pole position today with the grid based on the driver's second fastest qualifying time, and he's determined to put one over Matthew Armstrong and take a victory. It's a one-by-one staggered grid. The championship is in its third season, and really this is the first year that we've had it without the dreaded COVID threat hanging over us. So hopefully now more people are able to come to races, to look at the cars, to appreciate the championship, and therefore entries, one hopes, will grow for these 3.8 litre 6-cylinder mid-mounted boxer engine cars, 425 horsepower, 6-speed PDK gearbox. They've got the aero of that rear wing and front splitter. Performance per pound, there's a lot to be said for these cars. It is a championship split into two divisions, the Pro and the Am, and the green flag lap, the final warming up lap, is about to get underway. One or two new names for this year, which is good to see, and one or two drivers, like last year's champion Theo Edgerton, one of his main rivals, Jack Bartholomew, have moved on to Carrera Cup GB. So it's already proving, from the Pro side of things, to be a stepping stone into the next level on that ladder of Porsche Motorsport in the UK, but also it's attracting rookies, those from track days or limited amounts of motor racing experience, into the AM category. Number 9 is Matthew Armstrong. He lines up second on the grid. So Charles Clark is on pole on the outside of row 1 with Matthew Armstrong with him. Steve Roberts is going to start third on the grid. Formula Ford Ginetta and then BMW racer, and Toby Trice, last year's Ginetta Academy champion, starts for 5th on the grid is Harry Foster, younger brother of single-seater in America racer Louis, and it is Matt Greenwood who lines up 6th on the grid. And then you get to the AMs, which are headed by Rupert Laslett, and with him is Carl Cavers, who was the winning AM yesterday. Next up, Tim Kresick, and with him is Jason Pelosi, who's done quite a bit of Clio racing with the 750 Motor Club, now stepping up to something much more powerful. John White, who had a spin yesterday, he is 11th on the grid, and it is Total Racing rookie William Twire who lines up at the rear of the grid in the Race Lab car. So the field turning its way through Stowe Corner. The championship splits its season between the British GT package, run by SRO, 1 or 2 visits to the British Touring Car package when Carrera Cup does not race, so it fills that Porsche slot. And it also has, if you like, an away day with the Porsche Club of Great Britain at Alton Park in July. The field making its way out of Club Corner. Great part of the circuit that it might not look the most difficult of corners, but it is, because it goes on forever, and it's really hard for drivers to be patient with the throttle. Go too soon, you get it all wrong. Go too late, you lose time onto this, the Hamilton Straight, the Lewis Hamilton Straight up towards the right of Abbey. It's a pretty chilly day at Silverstone. We're approaching 10 o'clock, and the circuit has been busy with a GT warm-up with a single-seater race, and now the Porsche's on track, but still no sign of the promised sunshine breaking through. So it's a one-by-one staggered grid. Within the championship, you get a point for pole position as well as finishing positions within your class, and that means that it is Charles Clark and Matthew Armstrong tied on points once you factor in Charles Clark's point for pole from yesterday. So the field turning its way up towards the grid, out of the village, then around the loop, and there you can see at the rear of the field John White, who did race in the championship on and off last year, but was a big track day fan before coming into racing. That novice cross on the back of the car you can see. Pole position then is 77 of Charles Clark. There it is, the orange-nosed car weaving its way down towards Brooklands. His father Steve, a GT and Porsche racer of years past, but Charles made his debut at the back end of 2020, the last weekend of the championship, here on the Grand Prix circuit in pretty Arctic conditions, in a lockdown as well, and raced well last year with 4 podiums, and one of the likely champions for this year. Number 9 with him at the front of the grid, Matthew Armstrong, who was 3rd in the Pro category last year. His father raced in Carrera Cup GB, was racing Caterhams last week, although admittedly Dad did plonk it in the gravel in the first race at Brands Hatch of the Toyota 7 Series. Steve Roberts lining up 3rd on the grid, another one to watch, because Steve came out of frantic Formula Ford racing many years ago to then race within the BMW Compact Cup, of which he was a champion. He also has raced in Ginettas 2 years ago in the Ginetta Super Cup. And then 4th on the grid, Toby Trice, another Ginetta graduate, because he was last year's Ginetta GT Academy champion. And the words "test him" on the side of the car, all to do with his campaign to raise awareness for infertility through motorsport. At the back of the grid, in number 55, is William Tawaya, the Ghanaian driver in the Zen Petroleum car. You can see the green back to it. The green flag shows that everybody has returned from that formation lap. It is a 20-minute race, time not a set number of laps, and the drivers now see those lights go red. Engine notes will rise when the lights go out. The race gets underway now, and who makes the best start from that staggered grid? A good getaway seems to be made by Clark, but a better one by Matthew Armstrong on the inside. But no, he has to slot back in behind Clark as they go into Copse Corner for the first time. They file through that right-hander and then onto the power heading up towards the Beckett's S's for the first time. It is Charles Clark then who converts pole into the lead, but he did this yesterday and Matthew Armstrong was able to wriggle past him. So now Charles has got to try and either make a break or make that orange car as wide as is possible. Charles Clark for Team Parker, under the Team Parker Racing banner, but it's effectively the same stable, is Matthew Armstrong behind him. So the notional teammates together, William Tawaya being a bit cautious on cold tyres on the first lap at the back of the pack as the leaders come down Hanger Straight for the first time then. Heading into Stowe Corner, and it remains Clark ahead then of, in second place, Matthew Armstrong. Good little fight raging on there, look, because to the outside line, Harry Foster, number 16, but he's going to lose out, I fear, as up the inside line goes Matt Greenwood. Foster in the black and orange colours, as against a sort of black and gold, as they drop down now towards the end of Vale. And through on the inside there, Harry Foster maintains the position. So the black and orange car comes now out of Club Corner. Harry's father, Nick Foster, used to be a BMW champion, raced in the British Touring Car Championship for a time. He's got one of his sons going the GT route and another, Louis, going the single-seater route. As the leaders go then now up through Abbey, Steve Roberts up into third spot and actually trying to go with the top two here, which is good to see because he's not letting them get away. It's almost four for the lead as well. Toby Trice staying on the tail of the top three. Up now towards the loop they come. So they've done Village. The next corner is going to be Aintree as the road opens up here. It's that tight left and then a rather more gradual left, but the speed building. So now onto Wellington Straight. Now very much the fastest part of the circuit as they come down towards Brooklands, and Armstrong in second spot, pulls out, has a look, pulls back in again, tries to apply pressure, tries to unsettle Charles Clark in the lead, number 77 then, as they come up through Brooklands, heading towards the right of Luffield now. Another long corner. And it was here on the last lap yesterday that Charles went to the outside of Matthew Armstrong to try to retake the lead. Didn't work, but it was a good effort. But it is very definitely at the end of that one, free for the lead. Steve Roberts in a largely blue and white car going with them in third spot. Fourth over the line is Toby Trice. In fifth is Harry Foster. Sixth now it is Matt Greenwood, ex-Britcar, ex-Fiesta Junior racer. And Rupert Laslett, seventh, is currently the leader of the AMS. The one that went out wide there was Toby Trice, but he skips back onto the circuit. So Steve Roberts, who was fourth in yesterday's race behind Harry Foster, staying with the top two today, going with them, look, as they turn up through the Beckett's S's now. Onto Hanger Straight they come. So Charles Clark leading the way at the end of lap one by just a fifth of a second. Yesterday's race took them to 10 laps, so that's the target for today. And for Team Parker, down they come into Stowe Corner, but it is three for the lead, most definitely. And Roberts now getting up onto the back of Armstrong. A bit more knowledge of the car, of course, gained, whereas the other two drivers raced them last season. So Steve Roberts having to learn pretty quickly here because he's against more experienced drivers in terms of their car knowledge. Not to say that Steve's an inexperienced racer, far from it. But as they come up now through Club Corner, onto Hamilton Straight, past the wing. This is the Formula One start and finish area, don't forget, for the British Grand Prix this July. Over the line there they would have been, but the timing line for this race is coming out of Woodcote, the conventional place, and Steve Roberts for Red Line Racing, Simon Leonard's team, goes through in third place. Very experienced, very successful team is Red Line, with cars also this weekend in British GT here, but the Cambridgeshire driver Steve Roberts third, under attack for fourth, Toby Trice, and losing out, in fact, because there Harry Foster easily goes through up towards the loop, and he's going to secure that now as the cars go into Aintree. So Toby Trice, number 11, is the one that drops back. I just wonder now whether, with 16 minutes to go, Harry Foster has got enough time left in the race to go after the top three. I would propose that he has. Down they come into Brooklands. In sixth place, best of the rest, is now Matt Greenwood, who fell away from Foster on that opening lap of the race. At the rear of the field is William Tawaya, who's fallen away from this little pair of Jason Pelosi and then the blue car of John White. But the leader, Charles Clark, standing his ground here, comes over the timing line, goes through, and yet to score a race win in one of these Cayman GT4 Club Sports. Podiums, yes. Race win, no. And this could be the day of days for Charles Clark then. He's just starting ever so slightly to edge away from Matthew Armstrong in second place, because the margin is up to 0.4 of a second. Steve Roberts, though, is not quite as close to Armstrong as he was, and therefore that's allowing the second place driver the opportunity just to concentrate on what's going on ahead, not having to worry about his mirrors as the cars now hit Hanger Straight once more. This is lap 3 out of a possible 10, an expected 10 given what we had yesterday, and Charles Clark has done the fastest lap of the race on his one flying lap, because of course lap 1 of the race was from a standing start. But as he comes now into Stowe Corner, within the first sector of this lap, he's fractionally quicker again than Matthew Armstrong. Matthew, who comes into this with a good karting pedigree, but for my money, he's looking a little bit more racy now. That gap down ever so slightly as they come to the end of Vale. Now the right of Club, turn in, run it out wide, then the second apex, cut across, get the bite of the car there, and you come up towards the F1 timing line, with the margin in sector 2 actually having gone up again. So even though Matthew Armstrong might look the quicker, the timing screen tells otherwise, and by the end of the lap, possibly Charles Clark, unless he loses time on the second part of the lap, will be further ahead. Number 5, I should say, going through, you just saw the all-white car of Rupert Laslett, but this is now Toby Trice in 5th place. He's another of the pros, but he fell, remember, behind Harry Foster at this part of the circuit a lap ago, and he's almost in danger now of being caught by Matt Greenwood. Now in the AM contest, there it is, Rupert Laslett ahead of Carl Cavers. The Raceway Motorsport entry of Rupert Laslett leads the class and is looking for victory today. It was in yesterday's race Carl Cavers who took AM honours, but Rupert Laslett here, a bit like Charles Clark up front, trying to sort of turn the tables. Rupert Laslett's another one that's come out of Ginetta Racing. He was runner-up in the GRDC category 2 years ago, and another newcomer to these cars this season, which is really good that more and more drivers are stepping into Porsche racing from elsewhere. So Rupert Laslett goes by, the 54-year-old, and Carl Cavers behind him there, look, in the Beluga Racing red, white and blue livery. So they are fighting for 7th and 8th overall, but 1 and 2 in the class. As the leaders go by, half a second was the margin last time, and in the last sector of the lap, so Armstrong was fractionally faster. In the third sector, they were absolutely tied on sector time to the 1,000th of a second. So evenly matched these two are as they come onto Hanger Straight. Look at Steve Roberts using all of their own and then some in the background. But maybe increasingly now the danger is Harry Foster, because he did a personal best lap last time and took 4/10 out of the margin against Steve Roberts. So he is most definitely getting on with the job here. Through they turn out of Stowe. Down Vale this time into Club Corner, the approach then. This is the end of Vale, so you go left, then you turn right into Club. And you can see how Matthew Armstrong is shadowing pretty much every move of Charles Clark. Out of Club, gone are the days of cars being able to run way, way wide with all the run-off tarmac. Now it's a huge gravel trap with its arms outstretched, ready to catch out those that take liberties with track limits. Through Abbey they go, approaching half distance. Clark doing a good job up front, maintaining the advantage all the time here. And Steve Roberts, at certain parts looks close, and at certain parts looks like he's dropped away again. But as I say, the real danger to him, increasingly, is Harry Foster. 2/10 quicker in sector 1, 2/10 quicker in sector 2. So I think we might end up with them pairing off here, a pair for the lead and a pair for third. Great noise these cars make as well, as they're in third. Steve Roberts, full red line, runs a little bit wide. The Cambridgeshire driver out of Aintree, down Wellington Straight. You can see now Matthew Armstrong certainly mounting an attack. The gap half a second last time could well, should well be less this lap around. This is the end of lap 4, and Charles Clark flicks the car into Luffield. Matthew Armstrong hustles on behind him. He can't quite find that final 10th though, can he, that gets him onto the back of the race leader. Through they come over the timing line now, down towards Copse Corner once again, and the margin is down fractionally, 0.448 of a second. They're in third place, Steve Roberts, 4th, Harry Foster. That for 5th is Toby Trice, and 6th is Matt Greenwood. The gap between those two is only a second, and it's still Rupert Laslett keeping Carl Cavers at bay in the fight at the AMS. You can hear the cars riding the curb coming out of Maggots into Beckett's. But we're about to nudge into the second half of this race, and then the pressure really is going to be on Charles Clark to go for that maiden win, because increasingly Matthew Armstrong is taking the fight to him. Rupert Laslett here still leads the AMS from Carl Cavers and then Tim Kresick. Jason Pelosi 4th in the AM class at the moment. So the race leaders down towards Stowe, lap 5. The gap between the leading AMs is pretty much negligible. It was 9/10 of a second at the start of the lap, although bravely, by breaking late perhaps into Stowe, Rupert Laslett just stretches it ever so slightly over Carl Cavers behind him there. Carl much more the experienced in terms of these cars, because he's been in the championship since the start. He raced in the classic Ferrari championship prior to that, and Carl, who works in the video games industry, Carl Cavers, the likes of Forza Motorsport to Toka Race Driver 2, all to his credit. So he's designed them for the screen. Now he's having a go himself, and he does a good job in these cars. A win yesterday, and he might be on for a win now, because he's still got just under half the race still to go. And if he can apply the pressure enough on Rupert Laslett, a mistake might come, and a place change may be the net result. Down now towards Village they turn. Carl Cavers takes a tighter line, has a look at the inside, but more in hope than in anticipation, that I fear. But now look, a little bit more ragged is Rupert Laslett, and that gap certainly has come down. So just by putting the pressure on, making Rupert Laslett work that little bit harder, Carl Cavers is most definitely now back at the races as they come down towards Brooklands. He pulls out, he has a look, but he's not close enough to make the move there. What he's trying to do all the while is unsettle Rupert Laslett's all-white car. Look at how that gap has come down from over a second over at Stowe Corner to virtually nothing at all now at Luffield. So this is for the AM lead. Rupert Laslett just hangs on to the place in the Raceway Motorsport car. The Beluga car behind him, that in the hands of Carl Cavers, Ben Hetherington's team. And so over the line they turn now, down towards the right of Copse Corner once more. Rupert Laslett goes through. Not only is he graduating to Porsche, so is the team, Raceway Motorsport, which is the squad of Luca and Nicole Hurst, husband and wife, formed only a couple of years ago to go into Ginetta racing, and doing a very good job first time out, because there are lots of experienced Porsche teams that know all the tricks of the trade here, but Raceway Motorsport taking them on and doing a really good job. So down to Stowe. This is where the gap stretches just a little bit. So in a straight line, Rupert Laslett is good. The car squirms ever so slightly under braking, but he holds on to that class lead as they round Stowe with 8 minutes on the clock now. Down through Vale into Club Corner. This is lap 6. Up front, by the way, the margin between the overall race leaders still only 7/10 of a second. And out of Club Corner they turn up towards Hamilton Straight. And then now towards the right of Abbey. And once more, Carl Cavers on this second element of the lap is going to have to work very, very hard to get himself right back onto the tail of Rupert Laslett and try and force a mistake out of his class rival. He's very quick through Farm, all over the back of Rupert Laslett there into Village, goes from one side of the road to the other. And this is where the pressure might just force a mistake out of the category leader. But for the moment, Rupert Laslett sits tight, holds onto the lead. Out of the loop into Aintree, the two of them still absolutely tied together now as they come on to Wellington Straight once more. Almost nose to tail now, these two. The overall race leaders, by the way, coming into Woodcote, but Carl Cavers eyes up a move on the inside line. He's going to have to come from a long way back to make that work. Rupert Laslett in the white car gives him racing room. Carl Cavers sticks his nose up the inside, thinks better of it and backs out of it. So Laslett hangs on to the lead of the AM class, but Carl Cavers really has now served intent, hasn't he? I'm on a mission, he says. Don't rule me out. Race lead gap down again, 4/10 of a second up front. About to go over the timing line, this AM battle. And there is a board going out that is suggesting there is a possible penalty. Now, it's not come up on the timing screen, as far as I can see. It might be for John White. So I'm peering long into the distance here, but there's a board being held out, and it looks like it could well be a track limits penalty. But as I say, if it is for John White, that's not come up on the timing screen for whatever reason. Race leaders then now go down through Vale as the fight is joined now for third place. As we were wondering a few laps ago, Harry Foster has been able to catch Steve Roberts for third, and he's about to make his move as well. So down now towards the end of Vale. Foster goes from one side of the road to the other, but he can't do it there. Steve Roberts sticks out his elbows, hangs onto the place. It was John White being given a 5-second time penalty, and also Toby Trice. So that's the kind of penalty that comes for track limit abuse. There's confirmation now from race control. Doesn't affect what we're looking at for third place, with Harry Foster then really having come good as the race has worn on. Wasn't a brilliant getaway, and he had to work his way up through the order from 5th on the grid anyway. But now a podium finish like yesterday beckons, because he's thinking about which way to go against Steve Roberts as they head now towards Village. Lap 7 we're on. Side by side they come out now of the left-hander of Aintree onto Wellington Straight. Roberts is the one that gets run out wide. Now he might have the speed to stay ahead, but he's on the wrong line for Brooklands, so it's going to be advantage Foster surely as they come now down towards the braking zone. But Steve Roberts brakes as late as he can, but Foster goes through on the inside line. Steve Roberts tries to stand his ground for the next corner, but he can't do it. He does get run out wide. He has to slot back in behind the new third-placed car, that of Harry Foster, as Charles Clark here leads the way up through Woodcote. A drama in Am, change for the lead. Carl Cavers has finally done it. He's applied enough pressure to force Rupert Laslett wide, and Carl Cavers comes through then to take over the lead and perhaps go for a second win of the weekend. There's one more race to come at the end of the day, starting at around about 5:30, but Carl Cavers, going for 2 out of 2 thus far, goes over the timing line ahead, finally, of Rupert Laslett. Been a really good battle between those two, and so now starting lap 8, can Cavers get away, or will Rupert Laslett fight back? Here was the move, and this time plenty of opportunity on the inside line for Carl Cavers, almost like Rupert Laslett didn't expect that, and when he realised Carl Cavers was coming, it was too late to close the door. Race leaders down towards Stowe. Harry Foster in third place, now the best of the rest, but he's too far back to really catch these two. What he has done, though, is serve intent, and it's going to be interesting to see as he learns about the cars all the time, because he only raced in the last round of the championship, but Donington at the end of last season. As he learns about the car all the time, how much quicker he is becoming. So Foster could be a real dark horse for the rest of the championship here. Scored decent points yesterday, good points this morning, another third place beckons for him. So the race leaders come out of club, and there you can see Clark versus Armstrong. It has been the way all race long, and drama for John White, who has gone off the road, as you can clearly see, and he has gone off the road at the Beckett's S's, and he's a long way off the road there, so he's had a big lose, ended up in the gravel bed. The car should be far enough off the racetrack not to have to neutralise the race, but he got it wrong into the first part of Beckett's. Around it went, and the gravel does its job, catches the car, and John White is out, but okay. So it'll be a yellow flag zone at Beckett's. This is going to be the end of lap 8. There'll be 2 to go. But I wouldn't have thought that the race needed anything other than just waved yellow flags up there as they come into Brooklands for the race lead. Charles Clark ahead of Matthew Armstrong then, ready to turn their way now through the left of Brooklands, right at Luffield here. And Charles Clark then, the Worcestershire driver for Team Parker Racing, began his career in a Porsche Boxster at the end of 2019, really, with the Porsche Club of Great Britain, just to get a feel for racing before stepping up to this Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge at the end of 2020, and was one of the front runners last year, from memory, the car running in one of Porsche's old cigarette work liveries last year. But now the orange and white car leads the way, and on this lap has suddenly gapped, hasn't it, Matthew Armstrong. So they've been together pretty much race long. All of a sudden that gap shoots up to 9/10 of a second, and so Armstrong unable now, it seems, to do very much to fight back. So it's advantage Clark as he comes out of the Beckett's S's onto Hanger Straight once more. One more lap to run at the end of this. There'll be time for one more lap before the flag comes out, and down towards Stowe with Harry Foster in third place. Interestingly, even though he has done the hard yards to go third and has a clear track ahead of him, he's not being able yet, at least, to do anything about the fastest lap set by Charles Clark earlier on. Yesterday's fastest lap was a 2 minutes 11, today 2 minutes 9. Cooler conditions this morning, admittedly, as there John White's car is pulled out of the gravel at Beckett's. So that car will be sorted out, ready for the final race of the weekend. But very much sorted out has been Matthew Armstrong now. Charles Clark building this gap, ready to start the last lap of the race. John White, we've just seen in the gravel, he'd already got that time penalty, so the race going from bad to worse for him. It doesn't matter about the penalty anymore, he won't be able to serve it. He's out of the race as the leaders come up through Farm, and Harry Foster charging along up towards Village now in that third placed car. Turns through for Team Parker Racing. So like yesterday, it's going to be a 1-2-3 for Stuart Parker's Merry Men. In Am, it's going to be Valuga that takes a second win of the weekend. Carl Cavers, experienced Am competitor, comes up towards Village, turns through the right, gets back onto the power once he comes out of this next slow left of the loop. And this is where you apply the power wind off some of the lock through that rather more gradual left of Aintree, and it's foot to the boards all the way down Wellington Straight as the race leader comes through with less than half a minute on the clock, but that's enough to merit one more lap as through goes Charles Clark now in the lead of the race, and a maiden victory in these cars beckons. Within second place, Matthew Armstrong, now over 2 seconds behind him. Is that Matthew settling for second place, or is there something more sinister? Because it is quite a big chunk of time, given how close they've been race long. Third, Harry Foster, Steve Roberts fourth, Toby Trice fifth on the road, but apply 5 seconds, he'll fall back behind that car of Matt Greenwood. But as far as Charles Clark is concerned, this has been a really good drive, and he's on target then for the race win. He makes that run now up out of the Beckett's S's onto Hanger Straight, still being chased hard by Matthew Armstrong, but he's not going to get close enough unless Clark makes a mistake, and Charles has shown a little suggestion of that throughout the course of this second round of the championship. As I say, they have a supporting act at the British Touring Car Championship race weekends on occasion this year, and the Porsches will be in action along with the BTCC for their next brace of races at the end of May at Thruxton. So 2 very, very fast circuits to kick off the season for the Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge GB. And all the while on this last lap, the gap is growing, because in both of the first 2 sectors, the margin has been stretched by Charles Clark over Matthew Armstrong. They go up out of Abbey and Farm as into Vale now, and the end of it comes Carl Cavers, turns into Club. This is the man that's on target to win in the AM Cup. And having sorted out Rupert Laslett, he has actually been able to pull quite a long way clear. So a good drive that has been by Carl Cavers, as now coming through is Charles Clark, exiting Aintree down Wellington Straight. He is heading not only for Brooklands, the left-hander, he's heading for victory in round 2. He's heading for a first ever win in these cars. So it's been a really good drive from Charles Clark. All the experience of a season and a bit in Cayman's now put to good use. And Matthew Armstrong, as the race has worn on, unable really to fight back. So as the cars then now accelerate out of Luffield, the checkered flag is at the ready. It is round 2 of the Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge Great Britain. It is a win for Charles Clark, who comes across the line victorious by a margin which is a pretty big one, given how close they were early doors. 3.157 seconds is the margin. So Charles Clark takes the win from Matthew Armstrong. Third is Harry Foster. Fourth will go the way of Steve Roberts, and fifth Matthew Greenwood. Sixth Toby Trice. There is Carl Cavers coming through for seventh, but more importantly to win in the AM contest ahead of Rupert Laslett. And then in ninth place behind them, it is going to be Tim Cressick, and the top 10 rounded out by Jason Pelosi. But Charles Clark it is who takes the race win. Well deserved too. Really, really good drive that. Didn't put a wheel wrong. Did a very, very good job indeed of withstanding the pressure early in the race, coming as it was from Matthew Armstrong. And then as the race wore on, he was able to make sure that that race lead was going absolutely nowhere, and he built it over the last 2 or 3 laps impressively. 3 seconds then, the margin. It is a race win for Charles Clark, who now turns his way on this slowing down lap at the end of Vale. And it's 1 apiece then to Charles Clark and Matthew Armstrong. Race 3 is going to be the showdown. They get 3 races at these GT weekends. So there's 1 more to come, as I say, at the end of the day. Carl Cavers, 2 out of 2 for him. Very happy AM class winner, finishing in that 7th place overall, just behind on the corrected times Toby Trice, who got that penalty for the track limit infringement. The last car home, that of complete racing rookie William Tawai. He's just taken the flag. The one we lost was John White, of course, in the gravel trap a little while ago. So confirmation of the results. Charles Clark, the race winner, ahead of Matthew Armstrong, and then Harry Foster in third. Fourth goes the way of Steve Roberts, ahead of Matt Greenwood, and then the penalised Toby Trice. Seventh, the winning AM, that's Carl Cavers, ahead of Rupert Laslett, and then Tim Creswick, with 10th going to Jason Pelosi, and William Tawaya rounds out the finishers in 11th place. But for Charles Clark, a very good win indeed. Pole position, fastest lap, and the race win. All the cherries on the fruit machine of a line. The perfect score for him. Everything going his way in the second Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge GB race of the weekend. 1 more to come, coming up at the end of the afternoon here at Silverstone And with a win apiece to Charles Clark and Matthew Armstrong, the head-to-head will determine who, if you like, comes out as the strongest and leaves as the championship leader at the end of this weekend. Let's have a look at the highlights of that race that began with Charles Clark on pole position, made a very good getaway and was able to accelerate clear of the opposition on that run down towards Copse Corner. Matthew Greenwood a little bit further back, making a good start, but finding himself in an early battle with Harry Foster. Matthew Armstrong, a good start too, but not quite as good as that of Charles Clark. Wasn't really able to jump up the inside on the run down to Copse. Matt Greenwood and Harry Foster fighting then on the opening lap. Although Greenwood was on the inside at Stowe, Foster stood his ground, good racecraft, got the place at the end of Vale and then set off in pursuit of Steve Roberts, and in turn was able to get himself up into third place late race. The battle of the race for the most part though was for the AM lead. Rupert Laslett keeping at bay Carl Cavers, nose to tail they ran. It looked as though Rupert Laslett was able to hang on to it. He seems to be the stronger of the two, but eventually a gap would present itself on the run down towards Brooklands, and through would go Carl Cavers, as likewise Steve Roberts came under attack from the charging Harry Foster. Together they ran out of Stowe, but it was coming from the loop into Aintree and down towards Brooklands where Harry Foster was really able to make that move, because the road came to him and Steve Roberts on the outside line had to settle for fourth place. John White was a retirement in the gravel, and Charles Clark took race honours for the first time in the Porsche Visit Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge GB, the winner by 3 seconds at the end of a really good drive. So one more race to come for the cars at the end of the day. That's at 5:30. Join us for that. For now though, it's goodbye.